Since I do not have anything, any knowledge of be of business, I only know how to write a report and tell stories. So then I thought, then yeah, why not try something on my own? But the independent journalism scene was completely new for me. I was simply clueless. What should I do about independent journalism? Then one of my friends, she works in one of the news agencies of the country, IANS. So she happened to call me. So she was in Delhi and she said, "What are you doing?" And I said, "I'm just simply at home doing nothing." She said, "Why don't you write for Vice?" Vice is one news organization which I always used to follow from like time when I started my journalism. So I said, "Yeah, I can write for Vice." And she happened to work there initially, and then she suggested me to work on Vice while she was in IAS. Then during that time, I think the article, the homosexuality bill was decriminalized in the parliament, and then I thought, okay, fine. Then there was one story which was in my mind for a long, long time about Siliguri. So there's a space in Siliguri, a cinema hall, where people from the that section of people, the homosexual people, they used to go and watch that cinema in that cinema hall, and it was for people from the marginalized society, especially like not the people who would use applications that we have. Typically, these days people they use a lot of applications like dating applications in the gay community. And then I happen to know somebody who works for the people from the LGBTQ community. Then I spoke to him. Then he said, "Why don't you join us for a cinema in that cinema hall?" It sounds weird, but I said, "Okay, fine, I'll try." And I went to see that cinema, and I wrote an experience about watching in a cinema hall. Not known to people, that cinema hall happens to be one of the most coziest, and they call it the cruising space for homosexual men. And these men are mostly from people who are like rickshaw pullers and like daily laborers, and they go and watch cinema there. And it also happens to be their meeting place with other gay men. And they do not know how to access internet or how to go through the dating site, right? Like Tinder, whatever they have, Tinder, Grinder. So then I wrote a story on that cinema hall, and it was picked up by Vice. Then I pitched it to Vice, thanks to my friend, and then they accepted it. Then I started my journey, and after that I started writing for Vice. I wrote almost 4 articles back to back for Vice, and then I started writing on other subjects as well, from the hills, from this part of the world, Sikkim, North Bengal, because I think I am somewhat blessed being a part of this place, and there's so many stories, and I call myself like that. I live on the treasure of stories, and not much of is covered from this part of the world. I know Northeast there are a lot of coverage, but this part, especially Chicken's Neck, no, the Shiliguri, Darjeeling, Kalimpong, this part we have a lot of stories, and I thought why not write and tell stories about this region to the rest of the world. That's how I started my journey. Forayed into independent journalism.
Oh,
So yeah,
that's
I think
great.
I was able to
So
answer you.
basically, you are practically telling the stories of the hills, and I mean, which often is neglected in mainstream media. I
Mainstream.
mean, whether it
Yes,
is
yes.
reporting from the Northeast, or I mean, no, I mean, we all know reporting from the Northeast is something that hasn't been in focus really when it comes to mainstream media. The kind of
Yes, yes, yes.
problems that are there in the hills, the kind of work that people are doing. And I mean, even the culture, the music, and the movies, I mean, everything from the Northeast is always neglected in mainstream media. So it's a brilliant work that you are doing. You're bringing up that to mainstream media, actually. It's lovely.
Thank you.
So, as you said, you pitched that story to Vice, and Vice picked it up, and after that, your journey began. And then you wrote for print, and you have been writing for this US, Zenga News US. So, I have a question that comes to mind automatically: is that how do you how do you pitch stories to media outlets? I mean, if you could share with us, I mean, so how do you like a spark happens in your mind and you get an idea and you immediately pitch it, or you need to have kind of at least a brief of what the story could be? How do you pitch it to a media organization, and what can you share those tips? I mean, you're a pro now in independent journalism, so how do you pitch it?
I'm not a pro first of all, but yeah, my process is suppose I have an idea in my mind about a story. So firstly, what I do is I do my own self research and I talk to people who are involved in that particular topic, and then I decide where should I pitch, because not all media organizations they take all kind of stories. So I have this my own process of deciding कि नहीं इसको मैं यहाँ पे दूँ. Like for little weird, unusual but interesting stories, I look for organizations like Vice and other couple of media international media organizations. And for like regular stuff, I have these ABCD sets of publications where I watch. So first, what I do is I do my groundwork, write a little bit, a very what how to say, uh, well explained pitch, because pitch is very important. It should, according to me, I don't think the pitch should be just two-liner or three-liner. What I do is typically I write a couple of lines, the deck of the story, give 2-3 headlines, and then I write another paragraph why I want to tell the story and why now. These are like four like subheads that I typically give to my pitch. So my pitch would somewhere around 500 to 600 words. That would be my total. Yeah.
Okay.
Sometimes, especially for American or other European publications. And this is another difficult game altogether. And you need to have patience, because I pitch like for one story, I pitch almost like around 10 to 12 organizations. And from there, I get just one call, one response. So that's a different story. And one thing which independent journalists should have is patience. About patience.
I can understand that. So you're pitching basically, one story to 10, 12 organizations. And and finally, you basically, one of them would be interested to pick it up. And so basically working on that pitch is a very important aspect of, even before you venture into it. So working on a pitch, and the pitch has to be, as you said, elaborate. It cannot be just, a one-liner or a one-paragraph pitch. It has to be an elaborate pitch.
I don't think I am so good at it, right? Writing in a short pitch, but I prefer to build it.
Another interesting point you said was that why you want to do the story now. That's an important element of a pitch. So it's not just the story, but also why this story needs to be told now. So that's a very important aspect. So now coming from there, as you said, so you're pitching a story to 12 organizations, maybe, say for example, and maybe one of them picks it up and says, okay, go ahead with the story. But there can be instances where you are pitching a story and nobody is interested. So how do you tackle that rejection of a story, or how do you sometimes even somebody might say, okay, I will take the story, but it cannot be in the way you want to write it. It can be a different way. We want it to be written like this, or you want to get this side of the story as well. So how do you tackle that?
I think I am now, by the time it's been like almost 2.5 years that I've been doing this business. So I've made myself clear, and this is kind of an like agreement which I've made myself, that I have to accept rejections. Okay, so yeah, there has been instances, as you said, that. So for example, I'll tell you one example. In recent instance, so I pitched a story about a fermented dish called Gunruk. Okay, Gundruk is a fermented dish which is made in this part of the world by the Newari community, and it's quite a favorite in the Nepali-speaking Indians and the Nepali diaspora all over the world. So Gundruk is what basically it is. It's basically fermented, dried this mustard leaves, rai patta jeta Bangla boli na. So that's one. And then what they do, the process, they ferment it and then they make it a soup out of it. And it's extremely good for your gut health. So one of my friend, he was talking about this, that this gentleman in Sikkim who has done his research on Gundruk and the goodness of the Gundruk and how it helps to maintain your gut health, and how it's kind of like it gives you this what do you call that, nutrition and the immunity boosting element it has, and how good it is for during this, especially this time of this COVID-19 pandemic situation. So though no research has been done on it, but there are no scientific papers done on it. But there are people who have this strong claims that this is a very good thing and people should have it on their in their diet list. So I pitched it to so many organizations. Then one organization, it's called the Goya Journal. So they do stories on food and recipes. So they replied back. They said, "Okay, fine, dude. We like your concept, but we do not want this because we don't have a scientific approach towards it. So why don't you write a recipe out of it?" So I said, "Okay, fine." Then my my grandmom used to make this thing at home when she was alive. So I have this rough knowledge that how it is made. So I called up one of my senior aunts, said how it is made. And then I wrote an entire recipe of my grandmom, that how a gundruk is prepared from scratch and then how it is made into a soup. Then I added those important aspects, specifically the corona aspect, the immunity building thing. And I wrote a story on it. And then it's out there with the publication, but they have not published it yet. Typically, they take around 1 to 2 months to publish an article.
So basically,
So,
your
yeah.
entire story was turned on its head.
Yes, yes. It was changed again. I had a different flow of the story, but then again, it became a recipe. But then they pay a little decent. Okay, I said, yeah, why to waste this brilliant topic? I said, chalo, theek hai.
Wow, that's brilliant. So, so rejections will happen. You have to have patience, but
Every time.
but a story can actually turn. I mean, it's also that the initial idea of a story and how you pitch it can sometimes even get transformed into something completely different. But it's a different story, and you have to write it differently. But that's a different approach. Everybody has a different approach of telling a story, so they will not exactly align to the idea of the way you pitch it. So they will like to transform that. So that's another thing that happens. That's actually good to know, that how pitches can even get changed. So my next question to you in this journey, so we heard about how to pitch, we heard about the rejections that happen. I want to know, what are the real challenges? I mean, this is one challenge that we heard. It's the challenge of pitching, the challenge of being patient, and the challenge of facing rejection. But that's at the level of, while you are, pitching a story or transforming a story. I'm talking about the real challenges that an independent journalist faces on the ground, when basically, a journalist working with a media organization has a badge to carry and a sticker of the media house on it. So they kind of feel, we have, whenever we go around, if we get stuck anywhere, or if we get caught anywhere, or something happens by law enforcement or by unruly crowd or anything, we can just show that badge and probably we will be spared.
Safe.
We will be safe. So but an independent journalist doesn't have that luxury while working on the field. And sometimes I mean, you can venture into areas where you may not be feeling quite secure without a press card, and you still have to venture there in order to get your story. So those are the real challenges on the ground when you are trying to gather materials for your story. So how do you tackle that? You must have faced those challenges.
Yes. I think, yeah, that's a very, very interesting, and it's a regular affair for an independent journalist. But then when you say that, suppose if your story is being picked up by some organization, so typically I say that I'm an independent journalism, but I am reporting for this media organization. And when I tell them about the organization, and most of these media organizations are pretty well known, and once I explain that I'm coming from here, then they are willing to answer my questions. But thankfully, so far, I've never been in a cross situation where I have to prove myself that good, I am a journalist. So far, it has been okay. But then, if talking about the hindrances and the problem of independent journalism, there's another side of it. What happens is, after your story, you have an idea, you germinate it, and then you pitch it, accepted, you write the story, published, and then the journey begins of getting paid. This is another thing. Yeah. So you have to wait for a month, 15 days. It depends on the house to house, the circle of paying, the cycle of playing. Some they take mostly 30 days, some they take 15 days, 1 week, and some of them are very good. They just pay you within 2 to 3 days. Those are the like heaven, like acha maza aa gaya, cake walk. So 3 दिन में payment हो गया. But then there are organizations, I will not name them because I still write to them, who take a lot of time to pay. And that becomes the major problem, more than reporting, going outdoor and proving yourself that you are a journalist. Once your story is pitched, you are so happy that your story is pitched, accepted, you wrote the story, it's complete, it's out there on the media, but still not paid. So I think managing finances is a very, very crucial part. And I think that somebody is pouring into independent journalism has to be very, very clear, and like has to have one kind of backup. That, and also that one financial backup, of course, because you do not have a company, or at the end of the month you'll have a salary. Sometimes it is good, yeah. Sometimes if you crack a very, very good deal from a foreign media, and of course Indian media they don't pay you well, but foreign publications they pay you pretty decent. And I've heard that like New York Times and other big organizations, they pay you superbly well. I've not been so fortunate. I've not written to them so far.
So that kind of brings me to the next question. I think I can ask that question on behalf of many participants who are here. I mean, because end of the day, yes, we do journalism. It's a passion. We want to come to journalism. We want to tell the stories. We want to tell the stories that people need to know and or don't know. But the question is also about livelihood. So, I mean, how do you, I mean, does an independent journalist make enough money in this particular path? I mean, if you are maybe 1 or 2 years into this, or maybe you can be 5 or 6 years into this, and you have already written for 2-3 publications. Despite that, I mean, would you, I mean, I want to know just your opinion. I don't want to know how much you are making. I just want to know whether an independent journalist, while he or she ventures into this completely of her own and without any other kind of avenues of income, would they be able to make enough to earn their livelihood?
The answer would be yes and no.
Okay.
Yes, you can earn enough to survive yourself and to have like a job. When I was in Reuters, I had a certain setup, payment, and at the end of the month, my finances were taken care of. But so when I jumped into independent journalism, that was not there. I could not. I could barely make enough money to compare with Reuters or any full-time job. So then I thought, why not write for corporate houses? So I also write for corporate houses, those PR copies, those internal communication materials. So that kind of helps me to run my cycle. So initially I wrote a lot. From 2018 till 19, I wrote a lot for these MNCs and corporate communication. Yeah. So I wrote a lot, and they pay you pretty well. That's not journalism again. So yeah, so I think people should have some kind of a backup and balance between, till the time that okay, I am secure now, I am a famous name in the industry as an independent journalist. Now I do not need to write corporate copies. I think yes.
So
you need to have a back.
So from I mean, the learning to take is like, when I am starting out as an independent journalist, I'll start pitching stories to a lot of media organizations, and maybe some of them will accept and approve my ideas, and I'll start contributing there, and I'll start making some money out of it. But basically, as a backup, I would like to have a kind of a role where I'm also contributing to the corporate world in writing their internal communications, their PR copies, background press releases, and all that. So basically, those two coming together in the initial years would be able to sustain a journalist, right, at the beginning. Okay, so that's another thing. So you basically juggle the two, and then when you probably become a well-known name in the independent journalism circuit, then you can probably leave that corporate copywriting behind and only focus on your independent journalism. So
that's how I work. So I think it depends from person to person. And I'm also into podcasting. So podcasting thing happened. Why I'm telling you is because I also make some money from there. So podcasting thing happened during the lockdown first phase. So since I'm heavily into music, I like listening to music and creating music myself. So I thought, why not interview independent Indian artists? So the lockdown, I thought, I called up my people from the industry, and then I started taking interviews.
Yeah.
And then it so happened that one of my interviews were pretty famous. I did an interview with Shahana Bajpai. She's a contemporary Ravindra Sangeet singer. And then one of the owners of Bangla Live, Moushumi, she's in New York. So she happened to write a message to me on Facebook saying that, hey, I liked your podcast. Would you like to do some work, similar work for our organization? So they have something called the Space Inc., which is the English website of the Bangla Live. So I did a couple of podcasts for them. So and then those were paid gigs. And it so happened that another news startup from Siliguri, in the Himal world, so they approached me saying that, we like your work, we'd like to be a part of our organization. And it also happens to be one of my friends' brainchild, the Himal world. And I said, yeah, why not? And since I like telling stories from this part of the world, why not in a different format? Then I started interviewing for them. So there is one show every Sunday, it happens, where I interview people from different walks of life who have done really good from this part of the world. The Nepali speaking Indians. We call them Gorkhas, no? So I've interviewed so far 5 people. My interview tomorrow is with Vinod Pradhan. He's a cinematographer, like Devdas, Rangde Basanti and all that. And he happens to be from Kalimpong. So I interviewed that gentleman. So the interview will be out tomorrow. And these are all paid gigs.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. So this is how
I mean, the sense that I am getting from your experience is that you kind of, as a journalist, you kind of diversify yourself into creating different kind and types of content for different clients. I mean, that's how you actually will be able to, sustain yourself. So you are writing news stories, news and feature stories for the mainstream media outlets or even international organizations. So that's one way. Second, you're writing for corporate houses, their PR copies, their branding stories, their internal communications, all of that. And also you're into podcasting, which is a completely different format. But again, you have adapted, you have diversified. So you have basically created different channels of content creation and content generation. So that's how, you have to diversify in this field. Is that?
I think, Anjanta, because media is changing, no? We are no longer like a format bounded medium now. So there are so many options, like that people are telling beautiful stories on Instagram.
Yeah.
Isn't it? And I think, it's very wise to diversify oneself in different formats. So I picked up podcast. Now I'm doing interviews like how we are doing currently. I do Zoom interviews and then I package it and then it comes out in a beautiful interview format.
Okay, so thank you. I'll now start taking the questions from the participants that I have received. So Shrishti Mukherjee, she's asking, is this journey into independent journalism more suited for only those who are already in the domain of journalism? Or would there be options for those who really enjoy writing, who love to write certain stories, but do not have any background in journalism? Is knowing someone in the media house a necessary prerequisite to foray into this area? That's Shrishti Mukherjee's question.
Okay, so no, I don't think you need to have a J school degree or some kind of a media exposure. But yeah, if you write well, if you can write fiction also. So there are so many people who write fiction freelance. They write short stories, right? So you don't need to have no. The answer would be no. According to my experience, I don't think you need to have any experience in media. You just need to know, because now it's so easier. I'm sure like 10 years before, It was difficult to approach an editor, but now it's so easy. You just need to go and check their Instagram or Twitter handle, and you'll get their email addresses. LinkedIn is there, extremely interesting medium to communicate, or just go and approach the website of the organization and find out how to pitch a story. And I think all the organizations, they have a section where they say write to us. So then that's how I think you can approach an organization, and you don't need to have any expertise, but yeah, of course you need to know how to write good content, and of course that it should make sense to an organization.
The second part of the question is knowing someone within the media house a necessary prerequisite if you want to foray into independent journalism?
I don't think so.
So that's
because I hardly know anybody. I don't know anybody in Vice. They are now friends, but yeah, I didn't know anybody
you have
then.
to begin from scratch. You have to begin networking.
Yeah.
Apply the direct approach directly. Find out, do some research,
And wait.
find out the editor,
and wait
and have patience. But there is no need to have somebody, a friend or a senior in some media house to really start.
I think that also helps, Anjana. That also helps. If you have, yeah, that's as an added boon, but
not a prerequisite.
No, not a prerequisite.
Okay, thank you. I hope that answers Shrishti's question. The next question comes from Pratibha Raman. Her question is how to approach international organizations and how different is it when compared to approaching Indian media? I mean, she's talking about pitching for the purpose of pitching.
So the international organizations are very, very meticulous when you pitch them. So as I told earlier that I write a little longer format of pitch, and that is how I have learned from the international organizations. So they ask you thousands of questions that why are you writing this? Why now? So now I have made, I have this very clear concept. How do I pitch them? Before they ask me question, I give them the answers in my pitch that why I'm writing this, why I want to tell the story, and why now. And I give them a proper deck and a couple of headline options and a brief of the story, deadline, everything, how many words. So I think that's my style of working.
So there is like
able to answer.
I mean, there is like a specific format you follow while pitching for international organizations.
Yes, I think yes.
So can you share? Can you share?
Yeah, as I told you, I got a hang of it gradually. So international organizations, they like this is something. If I have to tell about Gundruk to them, they are clueless about it. No, so sometimes I also add pictures in my pitch. That hey, this is this. It becomes very easier for a person sitting thousands of miles away from me to understand what I'm trying to tell. And then if it clicks to them, I think that's how people respond to you.
Oh, I see. And how is it different from Indian media? I mean, Indian media is not so meticulous about pitching?
No, not so meticulous. I just write them a small brief.
And that's it. Okay, so I hope that answers Pratibha's question. Okay, next question I have from Sayantani. Her question is, what is the future of independent journalism given the pandemic situation?
Yeah, there is a lot of future. I think the Indian media organizations, they are not paying so well for independent writers. But yeah, if your story is strong, and if your the idea is very, very good, they do pick it up. So my story, which starts working till today, is going to publish tomorrow or maybe on Monday. It's about this Bhatia family in Siliguri who lost their father 22 years ago in the Kargil war. Okay, so this gentleman, he died fighting the battle in Dras sector. So I got to know about this family through a friend who's a working journalist, and I went there. It's somewhere near the India-Nepal border to their house, and now the son of the house, who was not born when his father died, his mother was pregnant when she lost her husband. So I wrote a story about that this guy who's studying medicine in one of Delhi's most prestigious medical school. So his journey of not having a father and his growing up days, and through him, I told the story of the Jawan who died 22 years ago in the Kargil war. So this story will be, I think, it will be featured for the print. The print, yeah, on the 26th of July, which is the Kargil Day or the Shahid Day, as we call it. So yeah, for this story, I wrote to a lot of foreign organizations. They said they don't understand this. That's nothing for them. But then this worked for the other media organization in India. I think 2-3 organizations they said we like it, but print was the organization which I wanted to write because firstly they have a good brand name, brand value, and I have written to them before also, and they were paying me decent. So yeah, this also I want to share. There has been incident where I have pitched to many organizations and like I got 2-3 responses. Then I take a call where I write.
Right.
Firstly, is the brand name. Secondly, it's the payment.
Correct. So, I mean, this also, I mean, kind of a learning that I can draw from here is while you are doing a story, I mean, the Indian context is something that may be very difficult to explain for an international organization. I mean, like, for example, you talked about this story about Kargil war and this Kargil Mata. I mean, this is a story that has a complete Indian context, does not have a world view or a world context. So for an organization in in Europe or in US, when you are pitching a story to them, probably they are looking at a story. Okay, it's a story from India, but it must have a world view.
Yeah.
It must appeal to an audience that is way beyond India. So if you're telling a story about India that only appeals to the Indian population, you'd rather pitch that story to an Indian media organization. But if you have a story idea that basically has a world audience, I mean, even a person sitting in UK or US or Germany would be eager to read about it, then you can pitch that probably to an international organization. It makes much more sense, right? I mean, the Indian context is important and the world context. Is it a story only for India or is it a story for the world to hear? That's important, right? Anyway, that's another learning. Okay, next question. We have another question from Pratibha. Her question is, how do you popularize or monetize your podcasts? And how tough or easy it is compared to perhaps monetizing a YouTube video?
Yes. YouTube is very, very easy, and I don't think it's easy anywhere, but podcast is difficult. Like it's very hard to earn money from podcast. But in my case, what I have done is I've never earned a single penny from podcast, to be very honest. But podcast has helped me to create a brand of myself. In the last 1.5 years, I think podcast has helped me a lot to, as I told you, like I got 2 gigs, like 2 like regular gigs. I've stopped getting gigs from Bangla Live, but the Himal World is there. So I think that's a big help which I got from podcast. But I think, yeah, there are ways to monetize your podcast, but you have to invest some money on it. You have to give advertisements to the platform that where your podcast is streaming. I think Spotify, I think there are options where you can give ads and then your particular podcast will be highlighted and then you'll get more listeners. And that is how you can earn some money from there. But in my case, I was lucky because I think my 8th or 10th episode was with Shahanadi, and it picked up really well. And from there, I got a couple of work.
And your
yes, podcast.
Podcast is with the cinematographer of which film you were talking about?
Vinod Pradhan. That's not a podcast. It's an interview. It's a Zoom interview.
It's a Zoom interview. Okay. So the next question comes from Orko Deb. His question is, please let us know about the ecosystem of mainstream media nowadays. Does it provide enough space for independent political journalism or independent investigative journalism?
Okay. I do not write on politics, so I'm not the right person to answer this question about political writing. But yeah, if you have a decent pitch, if you have a decent story to share about investigative journalism, yes, Indian media, they do accept stories.
I think
So I will share, because I cannot tell in general, but I can, what I tell is I can tell about my experience. So I was working on this investigative journalism about Sikkim. Sikkim in India, NCRB, the National Crime Record Bureau, they published a whole report that Sikkim is the Sikkim has second highest suicide rate in the country after Pondicherry. And then I thought, why not do a story on this? Because Sikkim is like ghar ke bagal mein.
right.
Yeah. Then I called a few of my friends who are into, like, they are into drug rehabilitation programs and all that. They said, yeah, a lot of people come suicide in Sikkim. It's a complete investigative journalism. And then I traveled almost like 2-3 districts of Sikkim. Then I wrote a full-length story for the print. And Ansandai, this story I was awarded, for this story.
Oh, great.
Yeah. So I happen to be from IIMC. So IIMC every year, the alumni we have, they organize a contest sort of a thing where they award their our group of people who have done good that year with their stories from different, like, digital or print stories. So my story was picked up as the best feature of 2019. The story.
Okay, great. So
Yeah, I guess yes. Yeah.
So
If you have a good story to share, Indian media, investigative journalism, they do accept.
So to answer Orko's question, basically you're saying, I mean, investigative journalism, pitching stories to Indian organizations is a yes, there is a possibility to do independent investigative journalism and pitching that story. But when it comes to political, that may not be the case, though that is not your.
Yeah, because I do not know the political thing. Because I do not write on.
I also think, when it comes to independent political journalism, I mean, every media organization, everywhere, they have an editorial board where they decide.
Yeah. Yes. They have their. Yeah.
I mean, the political line that they're going to follow. So probably that's an area that's kind of a sacrosanct for media organizations, and they would only allow people who are like authors and columnists to probably write on certain topic, and that too in a certain manner, but would probably not allow an independent journalist to venture out and go do a political story that much. They may not be that much.
I think you're right. Yes.
Reporting.
They have a set of bunch of writers who regularly write features and columns for them. You see, Telegraph, they have a set of writers and they write for them. Times of India, they do have one.
But investigative, yes, you can pitch to media organizations.
Yes. Indian media organizations, yes, they do.
Journalism, and you are into investigative ones. Okay.
So, yeah, but again, the payment can vary. It might not be as much as you have. You have worked on the story. Yeah. So sometimes, this story, I was not so well paid as much as I had. Worked on the story for 2 months almost, but yeah, I was gratified in a different way later on. Yeah, but Indian media organizations.
That's another thing. Like working on an investigative piece of journalism might take a lot of time.
Oh yes,
it can take months to produce an investigative piece of journalism. So I mean, the amount of time that you have to devote to get just that one story will be a lot of time consumed, right?
Yeah, it can be.
So this next question comes from Kusumika Das. Her question is very simple. How to pitch? It's very, very simple question. How to pitch?
Firstly, if you have an idea about a story, formulate it, write it down in a couple of lines, words, like around 100 to 200 words. And then you reread it. You should know that this story has a news value or not. To understand a story idea, to have a news value, that I think that matters a lot in independent journalism. And yeah, you can take help from your friends. If you have people working in the industry, you can show them their pitch. That, hey, I have this pitch, this idea. Does it work? Does it looks like a news piece? Can a news be drawn out of it? And yeah, I think initially I started up with this way. I used to show it to my friends, like, does this work as a news? And is it newsworthy at all? So yeah, I think, as I told you earlier also, you write a pitch of 200 to 300 words, and then divided in a lot of sections. Like you can give a small, because people, they don't have much time to read through a long pitch. But if your pitch is well divided and if it has like proper subheadings, then I think it works for a very, very busy editor to go through it.
Okay. Okay. Next question comes from Sulagna. Her question is, how to approach international media organization for a story pitch, which probably has a national connection, but it is related to Bengal politics. Does that work? I mean, Bengal politics, which has a national connection, can that story be pitched to an international organization, international media organization?
See, Bengal story for if the story has a very larger viewership, readership. So I think yes, you can. So again, I'll give you one example in the similar scenario context. So I was working on this story on Bangladeshi people who come to India for treatment, and they come in scores, like huge number come every year. But due to the pandemic, a lot of people got stuck in either that part of the country or here in India. Because a lot of people who had traveled in the early phase of this year for the treatment, especially in Chennai and Bengal, in West Bengal and Kolkata. A lot of people come for cancer treatment, for heart, for liver-related issues. And they were stuck here, and few people wanted to come from Bangladesh to India. So it's a very small story, not a big idea, not a big, but I thought why not play it in a bigger way where international readers would also love to read. And it worked. It worked because there are two countries involved. There's health tourism involved, and there's the pandemic involved. Pandemic still has a very, very good, like this market value.
Right.
So yeah, I think
basically the learning is that even a local story from your part of the world, you have to give it an international perspective by bringing in the wider aspects of the story. Just not the smaller aspect, but bring in the wider aspects of that story that draws an international readership or attention. Then that can be pitched to an international organization. Okay, thanks. Next question again comes from Kusumika Das. Her question is how to pitch to the sources so that they feel comfortable and they speak to an independent journalist. I mean, how do you talk to your sources? Like if you tell your source or a person you're speaking to, that you are from NDTV, you are from Times of India, you are from the Hindu, okay, people automatically will trust you. But the moment you say, I'm a journalist, I'm from an independent organization, I do not even know where my story is going to come out. So how do you gain the trust of your sources or the people you're speaking to or you're interviewing for your independent work?
In my case, I do not jump into the story if I do not have a publisher in hand ready. Okay. So I only jump into a story when I know that, okay, this story will go here and I'll be paid this much and I have a deadline. So once that is clear in my head, I approach them and I tell them, as I told you earlier, that suppose if I'm writing for the print, then I say, like, for example, today, went to the Nepal border, I said, I'm from print, and then they are willing to speak. And it depends on how to manage people, personal skills, rapport building, that works a lot. I think it works in every journalism, independent or if you're working for a house.
Yeah.
Source, developing a source.
Yeah, thanks for that input. Okay, next question is there a chance that you pitch a story, then it gets picked up by the in-house reporting team themselves? And if yes, how to do away with this? So the question is basically you pitch a story idea to an organization and they think it's a good story idea, but instead of assigning you that story, they basically ask their in-house journalist or reporter to do that story so that your idea gets stolen. So how do you tackle that, or I
think that much of ethics is still left in the journalists in this country.
Okay.
So far it hasn't happened to me, and I hope it doesn't happen to me in the future. But yeah, my stories have been picked up later by other media organizations. The one which I was talking about, the Sikkim suicide story. So one of my friends, colleague from India Today channel, TV channel, she called me up. She's herself a very very accomplished TV journalist, and she's won this award. What do you call that? The biggest Indian media award, uh, which is housed by the Express House.
Yeah, yeah.
Call it?
The Ramnath Goenka.
Ramnath Goenka. Yeah,
Goenka award.
she's a winner of that award.
Hmm.
And she wrote to me, and she approached me about this story, about the Sikkim suicide story, and they did a half an hour feature on this story.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. But post it has happened to me, post writing a story, but it has never happened that the editor has assigned his banda to do the story and said to me bye bye. No, that never happened. I think that much of ethics is left still there.
Okay, so basically this question has come from RD. I think, I don't know who is RD, but so basically the answer to that is Divash feels that there is still ethics left in media organizations, that they don't steal a story from an independent journalist or steal the pitch and make it in-house, and he hasn't suffered that yet, and he hopes he won't suffer that fate.
Yes.
Okay, the
Fingers crossed.
next question comes from Leo D'Souza. Can you share some details on payment? What is the industry rate, per word or per article? Also, is there any scope for negotiation?
So Indian media houses, it depends. It ranges between five rupees per word, and some of them they pay you less also. They pay you 2 rupees per word. But again, the international media houses, they pay you either they pay you a flat rate like $500 for a story, $100 for a story, or they have like one word story detail plan also.
And is there any room for negotiation?
Yes. I do negotiate, not with the foreign organization, but the Desi ones I do. Sir, itna nahi hoga, sir. So yeah, I do. I do negotiate.
So the benchmark that you were saying, that for Indian media organizations, they're paying anything between 2 rupees to 5 rupees.
5 rupees, yeah.
While international organization is primarily on the basis of per article, right? It's not.
But there are good independent indie media houses in India also, who I've heard they pay very very well, like 15 rupees per word.
That's very good actually.
15 but they're very rare, like 1 or 2.
Okay, thanks. I think I have no more question for now, and I think we are on time as well, 7:09. So thank you, Divash. It was wonderful talking to you, and thank you for sharing your journey, for sharing the experiences, the insights of independent journalism. We got to know a lot of things about how you work, how you pitch, how you negotiate, how you tackle rejection, and we got a lot of learnings as well. Be patient. You have to have a lot of patience. You have to diversify from not just journalistic writing, but even to corporate PR writing, to podcasts, to other formats, so that you open up different avenues of earning money, basically. And you also have to continuously adapt, and new things will come up. So once you do all this, you are into this field for maybe 3, 4, 5 years, and you write stories for different organizations, your name gets noticed, your stories get picked up by mainstream media houses or news channels and stuff like that, then people start to recognize you, people start to recognize the kind of stories that you do, and then you automatically will find, probably instead of going and pitching a story, you will find the other way, that media organizations are asking you or assigning you, can you now do a story like this for me? Can you do a story like this? So basically the first part of the journey of an independent journalist is when you have to pitch stories to them. But once your stories get published, you diversify your publications, your stories get picked up, you can actually basically have the other, churn the wheel the other way, where the news organizations start approaching you and say that, can you do a podcast for me, or can you do a story for me like this? So, and that's how your name gets figured in the entire international journalism circuit. Thanks, Divash. It was lovely talking to you. I hope
Thank you,
everybody.
Anjanda, for having me. Thank you so much. It was nice talking to you after like ages.
Yeah, it's been a long time. I mean, we know, me and Divash go back, I think, almost 6-7 years when we were colleagues at Reuters, and we worked
We did
together.
night shifts, crazy night, graveyard shifts. Yeah.
So it was wonderful having you. Nice of you to share and come here, your experience. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We will
Thank
be
you.
back tomorrow, just to let all of you know. So tomorrow is the second talk of this series, and it's happening in the morning. It's 11 a.m. in the morning. And tomorrow, our guest is Sonia Sarkar. She is an independent journalist, and she has written for organizations like Al Jazeera, DW, South China Morning Post. She has written for Vice also. She's a senior journalist who used to work for the Telegraph for a long time in New Delhi. She ventured into independent journalism, I think, into 2019, and she has written for a host of international organizations in the past 2 years. And so we will have her tomorrow morning at 11 o'clock, and I'll share details of that meeting. If any of you are free and want to listen in to Sonia, you can join in. Thank you, Divash. Thank you once again, and thank you everyone for joining in this first of the series, the Independence Talk. Thank you everyone.
All the best, Anjanda. All the best for your future
Thank you.
stories.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye, guys.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.